Hello, my name is Faith Rubel, and this is my final project presentation video. For my final project, I chose to do a film proposal, and I titled my film Shades of Lavender. Shades of Lavender is a horror slasher film set in the 1980s in a fictional suburban neighborhood of Brooklyn. The film centers around two characters named Silas and Juniper Grant. Now, Silas and Juniper Grant are a young married couple in their mid-30s. Juniper is a high school English teacher, and Silas is a young congressional aide. And the two seemingly are in a happy, healthy marriage, except not everything is as it appears to be. In reality, both members of this couple are, in fact, queer. Juniper is a lesbian and Grant is a gay man. But they are in what is called a Lavender marriage, which is a marriage in which one or both parties are in fact queer, and they usually enter into a marriage like this for appearance's sake. In the film, both characters are queer and using each other as a cover for appearances in order to present a seemingly perfectly healthy heterosexual relationship. They do this for a number of reasons, but the primary one is because the film is set in the 1980s, it falls under the administration of President Ronald Reagan. Now, during Ronald Reagan's presidency, there was a lot of anti-LGBTQIA plus propaganda being pushed forward, both politically and within the media. We also have the AIDS epidemic becoming a massive issue during this time. So there was a lot of fear surrounding LGBTQIA plus community. A lot of it was pushed by the media, where we were seeing a lot of stereotypes specifically around gay men, where they are homosexual predators or victims, and that was really all there was to it. And then the Reagan administration famously kept silent on the AIDS epidemic until much later. So there was also a lot of fear where this was being called the gay epidemic. It was a disease that the media turned into a gay-only issue and used it as a way to further oppress the LGBTQIA plus community. Religious leaders pushed this propaganda, saying that it was a punishment for the sins of homosexuality. So in the film, this couple is in a Lavender marriage, but they are both free to see their partners as they choose. So Juniper has a slew of lovers on the side, and Silas sees his boss very late at work many nights, and all is happy and working out well until Juniper's lovers mysteriously start being killed by a masked murderer. They are being stalked and killed very slasher style, and Juniper starts dealing with a lot of grief and fear and not knowing what's going on, and she wants to investigate this because as her lovers are being killed, little tokens are being left at the scene of the crime that all relate back to these women's final encounter with Juniper. So it feels very personal to her. And she goes to Silas and asks for his help in figuring out who this is, because she doesn't want to go to the police, because she doesn't want to have to be implicated in their murder, and she doesn't want to have to come out of the closet. At first, Silas is very against it. He very much is like, no, we don't want to risk getting exposed to the public. This is a bad idea. And he actually suggests that she should just stop seeing women at all. And through a long string of arguments, she ends up convincing him, and the two go on this adventure in order to try to figure out who the killer is. And in the very end, it is revealed that the killer was in fact Silas all along. Now, I don't want this film to portray Silas as what we see with a queer villain, where he's very caricaturized and expendable. That is not at all the case. I wanted to center queer stories and queer identities in this film, specifically in the 1980s, because I wanted it to be a cautionary tale of what it was like to be queer within the 1980s. So in the 1980s, like I mentioned, we had the Ronald Reagan administration that was pushing this anti-queer rhetoric, but we also had horror films at that time caricaturizing these queer identities and turning them into villains just for the sake of turning them into villains. We see this in Silence of the Lambs, for example, with Buffalo Bill. But in my story, it ends up being a cautionary tale about what it happens when a group of people is so oppressed and so ingrained in their fear that they then become the villain themselves. So Silas isn't killing Juniper's lovers just because he wants to kill someone. No, he's doing it because he is terrified that she is going to come out of the closet and leave him, and that would leave him exposed and potentially being outed as a gay man in this era in which his entire identity revolves around political approval. He's a congressional aide, and this toxic masculinity. So it is not only a commentary on queer identities, but also a commentary on gender identities. And when researching this, I actually am taking a human sexuality class at the same time as this course. So I got to utilize that textbook a little bit about queer identities and about what the compulsive heterosexuality looks like, and what it means to want to be heterosexual when you're not. And it was just a very, very interesting learning experience, especially getting to talk about how when a group of people is oppressed, they themselves can become the oppressor within their own community. So I was very, very grateful for this opportunity, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope that was good.